back to another episode of Caffeinated CX, where we talk about customer experience and stuff. So, we're going to be talking about today is Adventures in Bad CX Part 2. So, I was at a store the other day, and I'm not going to say the name of this store to protect the innocent, but what I will say is that their logo looks like a giant red target. And we were walking around, and this target was different than the others. The layout wasn't the same. I know they're all slightly different, but this one was very different. So we were looking for the cat food, and we were walking past the food aisle where this one employee in a red Target shirt was unpacking stuff and putting it on a shelf. So I was like, okay, cool. I'll go up and ask this dude. And I was like, hey man, do you know where the cat food is? And he stopped what he was doing. He pulled out his little scanner thing. He looked right at me. He looked back down at the thing. And then he just started pressing buttons on his scanner thing. Period. That was loud. And then nothing. Then he went back to stocking stuff. It was like I know he saw me. I know he heard my question. But then he just pretended to start texting on his little scanner thingy. That was weird. So I was like, oh, okay, dude. Sorry to bother you. And then I kept walking, and then eventually I found the cat food. Now, that was a little weird. And if I was at, like, let's say the Panorama City Walmart, it wouldn't have even, like, registered. In fact, I probably wouldn't even ask the dude. But then, after we got the cat food, the Sheba Perfect Portions in both chicken Alfredo and beef pate flavor, because my cat is bougie, we went towards the electronics section. The section that has all the TVs, all the video games, all the headphones, all the books. And the difference there and just the amount of customer service we experienced in the rest of the store was amazing. It was like these people actually like acknowledged you when you walked towards their section, and they're even dressed differently. They have those cool black shirts that say tech on them with a little white version of the logo, which looks like a Target. And they're like, hey, welcome to Target. How may I help you? Is there anything they're looking for? And I was like, no, I'm just looking, but thanks. But it wasn't just the one person that did that. It was like the two other people in that department that were doing that as well. And then just the contrast between those people and the person before, and then all the other employees that we passed on the way in and towards there, who we'll just call them the red shirts, who couldn't even be bothered to look up to acknowledge people when they came in or if they had a question. And that got me to thinking. I know I harp a lot about the consistency in the CX, the consistency and the customer service across all levels of the organization. It doesn't matter if you're taking calls, if you're making calls, if you're visiting the customer on site. Doesn't matter. It has to be consistent. And this, what I saw at this one store, was exactly the opposite of what I've been preaching. There was no consistency. It was awful up until that one department. And I don't know if this one department just hires people who care, or if it's the way they're trained. But it was a completely different store. It was a completely different culture than the rest of the departments. And I was like, oh, wow. So this is what the customers have been talking about. And I know I didn't have a good time with the other employees, but the tech employees, the electronics department employees, they were amazing. And also depressing that they were such a stark difference between the rest of the store, and all they did was acknowledge the customer. All they did was see if the customer had any questions. while the rest of the store just either ignore you or they go out of their way to avoid you. So that's it. That's the video today. Um, don't be like that store. The CX needs to be consistent throughout, and it needs to be consistent on the good end, not the bad end. I mean, that goes without saying, of course, but sometimes you have to spell things out because that's just the way it is. So that's it. Have a good day.